Thank you, everybody, for coming to the College Football Betting with Aaron Torres YouTube channel. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. Go ahead, click that subscribe button. It helps our channel grow. It helps our audience grow. I appreciate it more than you know as we're talking college football on this channel year round. Appreciate your support. Click that subscribe button. Today, the focus is the Oklahoma Sooners. Oklahoma, very interesting team. Everybody's excited about Texas's arrival in the SEC, and they should be. Oklahoma, people forget, won 10 games last year, beat Texas head-to-head, and so a fascinating team that we're going to get to in a moment. Before we get started, a couple quick reminders. One, if you're not subscribed to the College Football Betting Pod, make sure to do so. Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you listen to podcasts, we are available. Want to do me a favor, leave a 5-star review on the College Football Betting Pod page. That would be very much appreciated. You can do that on Apple or Spotify. And we also do have the College Football Betting YouTube channel where we're closing in on 1,000 subscribers. College Football Betting with Aaron Torres. Would appreciate any support you could give me there. Today, it is time to focus on the Oklahoma Sooners. Oklahoma, they're over-under in the FanDuel Sportsbook. It is 7.5. Even money as of right now coming in on the over and the under. So let's get into the Sooners. And let me start by saying this. Let me go ahead and give some credit to Brent Venables, because this time last year, I was a guy that wasn't totally sold on the Brent Venables experience at Oklahoma. And credit Oklahoma fans. They told me, Torres, you got to calm down. The situation that he was left was not good. The defense was a mess. But they were coming off a 6-7 year in his first year. And I said, well, wait a second. Now, if he's the defensive guru, how could they be so bad on defense? Well, it turns out, Oklahoma fans, you were 100% right. I was 100% wrong. And credit to Brent Venables, because last season, it's easy to forget. Oklahoma finished 10-3 overall and beat Texas in the Red River Shootout. And so everybody's so excited about Texas coming to the SEC, and Nick Saban picked him to play for the championship, and it's like Oklahoma beat them last year. Now, Oklahoma lost a lot in the offseason, but we do need to give credit where it's due, because they are coming off a 10-win season, and I believe largely exceeded expectations. Now, in terms of 2024, one of the most interesting players in this new 16-team SEC starts with Jackson Arnold, the 5-star quarterback for the Sooners. So we all know last year, Dillon Gabriel was absolutely awesome, okay? Like I said, led Oklahoma to that win over Texas. He was a Heisman contender for a minute. But when the season ended, we all knew that Jackson Arnold was the future. Dillon Gabriel decides to leave, or, might not really have had a spot to come back to. But it was going to be Jackson Arnold's time, and I am so fired up to see this kid, okay? Former 5-star, class of 2023, did start the bowl game. Threw for 361 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So it wasn't a great debut, but it's a bowl game. If we're going to call him meaningless, I'm not going to overreact to it. And the good news for him, there is quite a bit of talent around him on offense. Now, it is worth noting, former offensive coordinator Jeff Lebby obviously did go and take the Mississippi State head coaching job, so there will be a new man calling plays. But it doesn't change the fact that there is so much talent around Jackson Arnold. First off, at running back, Gavin Sawchuk, if you weren't paying attention to Big 12 football late in the year, I'm here to tell you this dude was a stud late. 744 yards rushing. His final 5 games, rushed for 100 yards in all of them. He is back. Also worth noting, one of the top running backs in the class of 2024, Taylor Tatum, didn't want to trip up on that name. He is in. And so 2 good running backs. And then the receiver room. Look, I get that maybe Texas is a little bit, because of Sark, because of Quinn Ewers, it gets all the buzz. But look at the receivers that Oklahoma has coming back. Jaleel Farouk, 45 catches, 694 yards, a pair of touchdowns last year. Nick Anderson has to be one of the most underappreciated players in all of college football. 38 catches, 798 yards, and 10 TDs. Did you hear what I just said? 10 touchdown catches in 38 receptions. That is absolutely insane, but it speaks to what kind of talent he is. 28 yards per reception. Also, another name to know. Remember, Andrell Anthony was a player who was excellent early, was a Michigan transfer, started last year, and had 27 catches in 6 games before he got hurt in the Texas game. He actually had 5 catches in that game prior to injury. And again, another portal name to know, Deion Burks at wide receiver. Now, the issue with Oklahoma's offense, it's coming behind a completely new offensive line. 5 new starters, that's never good, especially in the SEC. And I think it's why, and we'll get to it in a minute, but even Oklahoma fans kind of understand this is a little bit of a process. This rebuild is going to take time, but part of it is because of the offense, there is concern. The only real concern with the offense is that brand new starting offensive line. Listen, Brent Venables is going to get it there, but it probably isn't quite there yet. Defense, well, it's interesting. I think the defense is a very intriguing part of this roster, And again, let's give credit where it's due. Just said it a minute ago. Brent Venables. I was very critical of Brent Venables at this time last year. To his credit, him and that defense were much improved in the 2023 season. They went from 99th in scoring defense in 2022 to 46th a year ago, gave up 30 points in 22, 23 and a half last year, and went from 122nd in total defense, 461 yards allowed, to just 77th a year ago, giving up about 70 yards per game fewer. Remember that first year? It was like every game you watched, the TCU, they're running for 90 yards untouched, whatever. Bottom line is credit Brent Venables and that staff. It is worth noting they did struggle late. 38 points they allowed to Kansas, 38 points in the bowl game, and Brent Venables did shake up that defensive side of the staff. Ted Roof out, but Brent Venables obviously has a heavy hand in that defense, but the defense was pretty good last year. Good news for Oklahoma, a lot of key returning pieces, especially in that front seven, okay? Ethan Downs, Dejon Terry are back. David Stone, 5-star. Oklahoma fans, in the comments on YouTube, correct me if I'm wrong on this. I'm pretty sure David Stone is the highest rated defensive line commit at Oklahoma since Gerald McCoy. That sounds crazy. Speaks to the fact that maybe that last guy that was there before Brent Venables got there, maybe the defensive line and up front wasn't really a priority in recruiting. I think it shows, and I think it shows how much Brent Venables had to kind of overcome. And then that linebacker group is special, right? Danny Stutzman, he's kind of the guy, like it feels like the media has kind of made it a priority to be like, SEC fans, if you don't know this name, you better learn it quick because he's coming to terrorize your offense. This was a guy that last year, 104 tackles, 16 TFLs. Are you kidding me? 3 sacks as well. Dason McCullough obviously was the transfer a year ago from Indiana. 30 tackles, 3.5 TFLs. And Kip Lewis, I think, a little bit underrated. 66 tackles, 3.5 TFLs a year ago. And also worth noting, by the way, Billy Bowman, Peyton Bowen, a very good secondary that's returning. So while the offense, we got some questions specifically about the O-line, I think that defense is probably a little bit underrated coming into the year. Again, Billy Bowman was a kid, 6 interceptions last year, tied for second most in college football. Woody Washington, 48 tackles. So there is a lot of talent in that defensive backfield and on that defense. I expect it to be again improved this year. Now, the problem with Oklahoma, over-under win total is 7.5, as I said. And the issue with the Sooners, that schedule is bonkers, okay? Like, listen, I know every team in the SEC and probably to a smaller degree the Big Ten thinks that they have the toughest schedule in the SEC. Nobody's tougher. The league office hates us, blah, blah, blah. No. I don't think anybody got a tougher schedule. Maybe Florida. But even Florida's schedule was a little bit due to that they scheduled 3 Power 5 teams in the out-of-conference. Florida scheduled Florida State, Miami at home, Central Florida at home. Look at Oklahoma's schedule. It's bananas, okay? Good news is first 3 games, all at home in the out-of-conference. Toughest game is probably Houston. That's obviously now a Big 12 school. Willie Fritz is there in their first season. But 3 straight games to open the season at home in the out-of-conference. Then that 4th one is a home game. It's the SEC opener that everybody's talked about. That's obviously the Heupel Bowl. Josh Heupel, former Oklahoma quarterback, coming back with Tennessee, and that's when the schedule starts to get crazy. So you have Tennessee. Then immediately after that, I think this is one of the great trap games of 2024. And I'm not blaming you, Oklahoma fans. I'm just telling you, like You look at this, it's insane. You go Tennessee, then you have to go, and remember, that's an SEC opener. Your former quarterback is coming into town. Then you have to go to Auburn the following week. And I know Auburn on paper is not one of the best teams in the SEC, but it doesn't change the fact that is Kirby Smart at SEC Media Day said it's one of the toughest places in America to play. So you have Tennessee at home, Heupel Bowl, everybody's excited, SEC opener. Then you play at Auburn, you have a bye, and Texas on a neutral. So sandwich between Tennessee and a bye is a trip to Auburn. Good freaking luck with that, because that is not going to be an easy schedule. From there, you get out of the bye. It doesn't really get easier. You do get South Carolina at home. But the final 5 games, I would put with the toughest 5-game stretch with anybody in college football. And that includes an FCS opponent in Maine. Don't know how Maine's going to be this year. I think that one they should be okay with. But their final 4 SEC games, just listen to this. At Ole Miss, at Missouri, Alabama at home, and at LSU Thanksgiving weekend. That is like, did Joe Castiglione and Brent Venables do something mean to Greg Sankey? Did they give him a noogie back in the day? Like, what kind of schedule is that? Now listen, and what I would say is this is the gift and the curse of this new SEC. Every team doesn't have it easy, but there are just going to be years where the schedule is so unthankful and I've ungrateful. And I've said this a million times this offseason. I think we're headed to an NFL model where it's not just who are the best teams in the country. It's really more specifically, can you be really good but catch some breaks on the schedule? And you look at a schedule that includes at Auburn, but then in a 5-week stretch, at Ole Miss, at Missouri, at LSU, with Alabama at home. That is absurd. And I look at that, and this is some of the unfortunate breaks, because you happen to catch Ole Miss in a year where we're recording this before the first AP poll comes out. Ole Miss is going to be a top 10 team. They were picked to finish, 4th in the SEC, behind only Georgia, Texas, and Alabama. Missouri's probably about a fringe top 10 team. And so I look at this whole situation. I say, like, it's just a bad break for Oklahoma that you happen to catch Missouri and Ole Miss on the road in years where both those programs could have their best team in a very long time. And so when I do my over-under win total prediction, listen, I know you're getting annoyed because I haven't given you a definitive over-under for any of these. I can't. How can you pick the over-under here? I think this is probably, if this was in the Big 12, this is a 10-win team, 11-win team. But you look at the schedule. At Auburn, at Ole Miss, at Missouri, at LSU. If you go 2-2 in that stretch, that's incredible. And that doesn't include Tennessee at home. That doesn't include Alabama at home. That doesn't include some of these other games throughout the schedule. And so I think this is probably an 8-4 team. But I can't bet it. I'm not going to tell you to bet it. I don't think that's fair to you as the consumer. This is a stay away to me. The one thing I will say, I want to give a little bit of credit. Oklahoma fans, it seems as though, to their credit, seem to kind of understand, like, this is a process. It's not going to happen overnight. And I think Oklahoma fans, you never want to be 7-5, but I think they understand this is a process. We have the right people in place. I trust the team. I trust Brent Venables. I trust Jackson Arnold. But I think you're really building for 2025. I would stay away, but it's just because of the schedule. I like the team, but the schedule terrifies me. All right. Think that's it for this episode of College Football Betting with Aaron Torres. If you're not subscribed, please make sure to do so.